That's a good start. That's what you put your time so they're just actually facing it on.
Oh yes, oh right, yes, this one is not in use.
Thank you. It is quarter past and time to get started, and thank you very much for coming along. Before we actually open the meeting, due to a resignation, we have to elect a new vice chair of the Parish Council. So I'd like to ask if there's any nominations, please.
David Barr.
Do I have a second of that?
I second it.
Martin, cool. Do I have a second nomination?
Yeah, I'd like to propose Beck Laxton.
And Alan? Right, thank you very much. Any more nominations? Right, I'm taking it on the first person that was nominated on David Barr. Can I take a vote of who would like to have the...
Kevin, we agreed at a previous meeting quite a while ago that when we're choosing people to chair committees, we'll let them just say a few words about why they want to chair the committee. They're happy with this.
I do. I'm assuming you'd like to do that.
Yes, what we said we would. We agreed it was a good idea.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. I have no problem with that. So, David, if you'd like to give us a brief...
Yes. Well, as I say, I'm very sorry to hear Janet's resignation. She was a very good vice chairman. I'm now my to step up to the post because I do have considerable experience both as chairman of South Cambridgeshire District Council and also chair of this council earlier. I'm also retired now, so I do have free time to spare to support the clerk. And I think that's really what I want to say at this stage.
Thank you very much. And Beck, you please.
Thank you. I've decided to stand for vice chair, even though I'm not actually going to win, because on a quick reckoning of people around this table, I know how the vote's going to go. But I wanted to offer an alternative for anyone who thought it might be a good idea to have a woman as vice chair again, and possibly attempt to try and correct some of the things that have happened at meetings that have caused women to resign from the Parish Council, something I'd like to say a few words about later. I know Kev fairly well. I think he's a terrific chair. I'd really like to work with him. I've been a parish councillor for what feels like centuries, but possibly 7 or 8 years. So I've got a good understanding of the processes. There's lots of budgeting responsibility as I'm good with numbers. My professional skills have always involved cutting through nonsense would be the polite word for it, and putting things clearly and thinking about the people who are actually going to use things. and so that's a very useful skill. In meetings, I try and be the person who listens to the different points of view and then proposes an action that will actually bring the meeting to a point, so we don't spend too much time chuntering around about things. I've thought long and hard about whether I could actually do the work involved. I'm a freelance who works part-time at the moment, and so I decided I could do the job if elected, but as I say, I think that's unlikely, but I wanted to offer you the opportunity.
Yeah, and thank you very much for that. Right, if I can take the vote on the first nomination.
Kevin, did we also agree at a previous meeting that ballots were going to be private?
No.
Secret?
For chair and vice chair.
No.
We agreed it. Didn't we?
I think it's a difficult issue because there are really good reasons for having the public and really good reasons for having the private. But I thought
We've always voted for
You
the
do it
chair
at
and
full
vice chair.
parish, at annual and May, then you do the chair and vice.
We haven't had a contested election for that for a little while.
It's up to you.
No, it's not up to me.
Well, I
It's what's been
don't-
previously
I was aware
agreed.
that I had gone with,
And some of us
we've
think
always
that's
got
what
that we've done by hand,
Yeah.
and shown the public that,
It's a good forward.
it's the way we've done it before. The way we've done it, the ballot is on, as far as I'm aware, is on co-option. If we're co-opting people on, that goes to private ballot. But I don't recall us ever doing a private ballot for chair or vice chair. I think we've always gone to a public vote. So I'm going to stick with a public vote. And so, if I can, David again.
Well, can I just ask for it to be recorded?
Absolutely. You can have that request. So for David, can I take the people that would vote for David?
Right, you have to get your hands up. Yeah.
And now can I have the votes for Beck, please?
Kevin, did you just place a vote?
I know to vote.
I've been told with some authority by another member of the council that it's not ethical for the chair to vote for the vice chair because we're going to have to be working with them. And so if you vote against them, that's unpolitic. So I mean, Councillor Marvel will be able to tell you because he told me this, that the chair doesn't participate in the ballot for vice chair.
I don't think there's any hard and fast rule. I mean, it's a practice I adopted myself personally, but I don't think there's a...
Oh, I see. So it's a convention when it works in your favour, not a convention when it works
Okay. I have the results. I'm very close to what it is. I'd like to say that welcome Beck as the winner, as the person been elected. Sorry, the person been elected as vice chair of the Parish Council.
6 and 5.
It was, yeah,
6 and 5.
6 and 5.
Sure.
Yes.
11
No, well maybe it would be more interesting if I had to. Because then you don't have a casting vote if you've already voted.
Right, can you sign that, please?
Yes, but you don't have a casting vote until the ballot's over, and then you only need to cast a casting vote when it's a draw.
You're on.
Anyway,
Right,
welcome.
we cannot move on until Beck has signed that.
Oh, right. Okay.
Jones.
To the Smith.
So, 8.
Let's go. Yeah.
You.
Joe, you're the proper officer. That's certainly
Not me.
not fake.
Not me. I'm not the one who goes to prison, who goes all.
Right, carry on.
Right.
Thank you, Beck.
Okay, welcome. And now moving on, apologies for absence, please.
Tony Fairway, Matthews, Colin Rose, and Tony Orange, you will be here a bit late.
Thank you. Right.
Councillor Duffield apologises for not being able to make it this evening.
Thank you very much. The public participation time. 15 minutes for members of the public. Should you have any questions that you wish to raise? And if not, I'm ignoring the far right. Mark.
Just a point of interest, really. There was an emergency for the parish at the end of September.
Yes.
I usually get, thanks to the clerk and her assistant, the papers emailed about the full parish. I didn't have one for the emergency one. Is that
extra?
or extra? Yeah, it's just.
Extra full parish.
It's. I mean, I don't care about the other ones, but the full ones interest me slightly more. So if it's just if while those documents are I could have them as well, because then I would have known it was happening for the.
And it wasn't extra,
It was extra.
Yeah, because according to the agenda principle.
We had an issue that popped up that had to be dealt with.
So we changed the planning to an
Yeah,
extra.
so-
Yes, I realise it's a planning style, it's just if it
I'll make
happens.
sure you're on that list.
Well,
Sorry, Dom.
yeah, we did miss you. Honestly, we did miss you.
They don't want you to ask for you.
Right, anybody else?
Yeah, me,
Roger.
that's what I'll get. There was one thing, there's two now. Beck's saying about private vote. I think when I was on that, Beck, that was brought up. That any vote, you know.
It was discussed in June 2017 and requested to go on the agenda for the meeting afterwards, but we didn't see that discussed in July 2017.
I know it was mentioned. Another thing is, you're about double yellow lines down Church Lane. Double yellow lines down, way down Church Lane,
Yes.
who's paying for it?
It's coming out, if it goes ahead, it's coming out of the LHI, which means we pay, I think we agreed to pay up to £1,000 and then the council pays the rest.
Yeah, because several years ago when I was on the Parish Council, that suggested double yellow lines down Leap Road.
Yeah,
And it was voted on, no, we won't do it because we've got to pay for it and there's nobody to police it. So why are they paying to have it done down Church Lane?
we're not, at the moment, we had a meeting on this, it's actually brought up on the extra foot. And the issue that came out of it is, number one, the police issue was mentioned. Number two is the residents, the majority of residents down St Mary's were not exactly happy and forthcoming with it. And number three, we've gone back to the county and looking at the original plans. That's still not saying that we're committed to carrying it out. We've still got a lot of consultation and discussing to go forward with that at the moment. So at the moment it's still up in the air and it's still not guaranteed that it's going to happen.
Yeah, because I was walking down Leap Road the other day and the car pulled up for someone who's come across the crossing.
Yeah,
No car could straight by them.
yeah.
You know, so surely you've left up the yellow lines down there. As a school though, that's all important in Church Lane.
Yeah, Beck, you to say something?
Yeah, is this consultation still in progress about Church Lane?
No, we've had a consultation.
Okay, so there's been a consultation, I know,
Yes,
so
sir.
looking at the results of that. The problem is that putting in double yellow lines doesn't fix the problem. It only fixes the problem if you're able to police them.
Yes.
And what we're seeing all around the village, all around the county, is that the police aren't interested in policing traffic offences. They've had huge cuts to their funding.
Why spend our money paying for double yellow lines and nobody can police it?
Well, quite.
Well, the thing is, when it comes to being an ex-councillor, you know, when you also know that we have LHI come forward and the double yellow lines was mentioned and brought forward. There were other options that we were looking at, but on the vote, it went the double yellow lines was one that we would take forward. from that has come the issue of the consultation has showed that the residents are not particularly pleased about it. There have been concerns on the council about the policing of it and the effectiveness of it. So there's still, as I said, a lot of conversation going on at the moment. So don't assume that we're going ahead with it at the moment. We've still got a long way to go. And I know that James, you're doing the hand up?
Yeah, I think the road does have double yellow lines, it's just they're worn out. So if you actually look from the top of Churchfield Road, round the bend, they are double yellow lines. There's a small gap up to the zigzags, but the other side is double yellow lined.
Yeah, it should be double yellow line, both sides are the same. They can't walk up, let somebody cross that zebra cross and they'll cut in, take notice, went by it and...
But then you will have the issue, there are parents who genuinely need to drop children off and they will need somewhere to park. So unless the school can offer them somewhere to park, you need some parking outside the school.
Yes, I think I've lost track of the logic behind the original proposal. The issue down Church Lane is historically has been parking on both sides, particularly when there's a large event as a funeral or wedding on a church. It's coinciding with the coach trip, and there have been several instances when it's been virtually impossible for large vehicles to negotiate down, and I have photographic evidence of that. We accept fully the issue about enforcement. We felt that there's at least some guidance to try and persuade people to park on one side of the road and ease that situation. It's not to stop parking in the middle of the Church Lane, it's to try and encourage it for it all to go on one side. Okay.
Right. Then, any more questions for the comment? No? Good. Right. Declarations of interest for this meeting.
Item 139 is a member of St Mary's BCC.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other declarations? No?
Sorry, 134. I may still be a member of the snooker club, but I can't remember. I've never played. I only joined so that I could go around there and get the apples from my tree that grow over into their driveway.
Sounds good to me. Okay, thank you very much. Right, item 124, Hawaii, as I say, who are we? We're supposed to be coming along. They're due to the fact that there are some...
They withdrawn their application.
They withdrawn their application, so they're not here tonight. Okay, so moving on to...
Can I just ask, do we have any information about why they withdrawn their application?
You've got the applications on the
Did they give a reason? It sounded as though they just wanted to just move it up.
Right. They are working with South County, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, so the original pre-planning application that Huawei did with the offices was somehow deficient, because when it came to putting in the application, the council officers said that it wasn't appropriate. So while they're trying to negotiate effectively a different consideration that couldn't get anywhere, so they've taken it off the table and we're going to come back with a new one. And it was particularly with the design and its fitting in the landscape.
Right, so thank you very much for that, Brian, for clarification. Right, item 125. I'd like to welcome Emma Fordham from the Salston Tiebreak with an update.
Thank you. I just wanted to check before I start. Has everybody got one of these?
No, sorry.
Right. Should take one customer.
Thank you.
Just I'm going to be referring to some of it rather than reading.
No.
If you want one,
Just one sheet.
Yeah.
it's fine. Just because I'm going to refer to some of it rather than comment on every bit. Just then if you've got questions on other bits. Should I stand here? Where do you want me to stand?
That's fine.
Go for it. For my
Stand on chairs, you can do the fandango.
I won't bother doing that. Thanks, so.
Oh, stop the door.
There will be some stairs, there should be some stairs.
Okay.
Are we ready? Yes, so hello, my name is Emma Fordham and I'm the Time Bank Coordinator. So I've put together quite a sort of, well, a detailed-ish report, of which I'm obviously not going to go through it all, but I thought I'd note down lots of the bits, so the current things that are happening, a bit about the past and a bit about the future, so that you guys can have a quick look, and if you've got any other questions, let me know. But I was just going to sort of highlight a few bits from this. So, key aims, the three main things, sort of maintaining the great work that we kind of are already doing and that was already in place, developing it, so making it bigger and better, more members, more exchanges, more events, more groups, and then evaluating. So asking the Time Bank members and getting case studies, making 3 monthly reports and getting statistics. So I've put together, so at the end of July, I've just put a few of the figures there to now the beginning of October, just so you can see sort of the difference. So I officially started the middle of June, but I kind of fully took over at the beginning of July. So just so you can sort of see sort of some of the statistics, how we were to what we've become. So we're sort of steadily increasing, which is great. And obviously over summer, we've not had quite as much because obviously a lot of people have been away on holiday, and I've also obviously been on holiday, and there's lots been going on. So, but I think our numbers are still doing really well. One of the things I've added in is current members over 65, which currently is half. So just so you can kind of see that statistic. And the reason I put that in is because one of the things I have to report on to the County Council is how many members we have over the age of 65. So we've got that in there. So currently our total members, so children, adults and organisations, we're on 59 now. So I'm really sort of happy with that. And we've still got quite a few in process at the moment, going through the sort of the joining.
So what's the difference between process and pipeline?
Absolutely, great question. So the difference is basically processes, they're very nearly there. We're just waiting on perhaps, because when you join you have to get 2 references, so perhaps I'm still waiting on references, or they have to also join the Time Online too, which is like the online system, so perhaps they're just doing that. So most likely they've done the chunk of it, and now they've got one little bit, and they're just waiting for that. Whereas in pipeline is that they've perhaps shown an interest, or I've met with them briefly, but they need to still do a lot of the process really. So the 5 will join relatively soon, whereas the 18 it still could be a little while depending sort of how quickly we go through things really. But I kind of wanted to put those there because actually, just so people sort of can see that and are aware of that really, because sometimes some members it does take a while for them to join, no matter how much encouragement I give. So that's just there for you guys. So number of exchanges, so that's anything from when somebody helps somebody, so that could be a sort of one-to-one exchange, that can be any of the events, the coffee mornings that people attend as well. So that's why it's sort of quite a relatively good sort of number really. And again, the hours can be one-to-one exchanges, groups, events, any of those sort of things. Does anyone have any questions on the table before I sort of move on to the next bit? So one final thing I was just going to say was, so I've set up a Facebook group now. So we've got a group which is open, we've got a page which is open sort of for any member of the public to access, and that's sort of free for anyone to sort of see the things I put up. Have I got it the wrong way around?
Yeah, is it a page or a group?
So the page is the open one, I believe, and the group is the closed group. Is it the other way around?
You can have closed groups or open groups or secret groups.
I'm pretty
or you
sure.
can have a public page.
I'll check. But basically, one is open that anyone can see, and one is closed that only Time Bank members can join. So that's the 7. So only currently 7 members are in there. That's partly because some don't use much internet generally, some don't use Facebook, and some don't necessarily want to, so that's fine obviously. And I keep getting people asking to join that group that are not currently Time Bank members, so I keep sending them a message saying, you can only join this if you join, and here's all the details. So hopefully that will keep going. And a lot of those 48 and 50 that are following and liking the page are not actually currently members, so it's good to see that they've got that interest, and hopefully over time they might think about joining really. So moving on to current plans. So these are just sort of some of the main things that the time bank and that I'm doing at the moment. So time credits is a scheme that you kind of sign up to through the County Council, where you can change time bank hours into basically like vouchers, and they can be used at some places in Cambridge like the cinema, leisure centre, some of the museums and things like that. So it's a way for people to volunteer their time and to get something back in like a reward sense rather than a sort of a payment sense. So we've just recently signed up for that. So we've got some members sort of signing up for that, and I've been doing some assemblies, and I'm going to carry on and do the other assemblies in the other two schools. And shock horror, that goes quite down well with the children. The idea that they can get something back. So hopefully we'll get a few more children and families joining, because actually they can all, you know, have a day out to. One of the examples was Diggerland. Who doesn't want to drive a digger? And things like that. So hopefully that will encourage a few more people. So advertising, obviously you've all seen the posters around the village and all the information in the source and scene. I'm just doing a bit of product placement. So we've got a lot of information in there now, so hopefully that's another way. So we've got Facebook, we're getting out to people, the posters around the village and the source and scene. But if anybody's got any other sort of suggestions of ways we could get out, sort of as a way to sort of advertise, publicise, then let me know. So the main sort of bits is recruiting and supporting people to join and become time bank members, and also encouraging the exchanges. So that's where somebody might need their front door painting and somebody helps them, or somebody might want somebody to look after their rabbit while they're on holiday and somebody helps them, and so on and so on. And they pay each other in time, which goes into their time bank, is the idea. So that's a big part of what I do, is sort of overseeing all the exchanges and making sure that people have got their needs sort of being met, really. So I've gone on to sort of say a few of the sort of challenges, barriers. I mean, money is a challenge, obviously, all the time, forever, every time. So the main way that we sort of have money to do things at the time bank is via donations and fundraising. So one of the things I wanted to mention was lovely red graphic, yay! Because basically they have supported us by printing for free 200 leaflets. So I just wanted to make sure that I said thank you to Red Graphic in a sort of a public way. I've obviously on Facebook said thank you, and I've told the time bank members, but just because that's pretty brilliant, because actually we couldn't afford to have leaflets printed because we would have to be using sort of donation money or fundraising money, of which we only have a small part. So that is one of the bits. The other bits obviously is time. I'm only employed for 15 hours a week for this job, of which you could easily be full time, and it's trying to sort of make sure I'm doing the priorities but also continuing to grow it in the time that I've got, really. And one of the things that recently sort of I've done a change with is, rather than me attending every coffee morning on a Monday, now I'm only going to go to every other. So time bank members are going to take the lead at the other coffee morning. So that's encouraging them and empowering them, but also meaning I've got a bit more time to do some of the other things. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but that's just a sort of a bit telling you about what I have to report for the County Council, because we got some money from the Innovate and Cultivate Fund to help fund this role. So that's some of the specifics that I'm having to sort of do and record on. Moving on to partnership working, so I'm trying to work with lots of the other organisations, agencies, groups, both within Sawston and sort of local areas, to make sure that we're meeting lots of different people and lots of people know about the time bank. And then on to the next page. So events, so we do coffee morning every Monday, which is usually pretty well attended, between 12 and 20 people, and that is open to time bank members and non-members. So there's just a few statistics there as well, really. And then, I'm not going to go through these, but again, there's just a list of some of the events that we've done since July, both sort of fundraising events, raising awareness, and also going out to some of the groups and schools and things. So moving on then to future plans and ideas. These are some of the things, so some of these things are already set, some of these are sort of a work in progress, and some of these are the hopes that I have, but probably sort of after Christmas. So there's a few there, sort of, again, I met today with Jonathan Russell, the head teacher at Sawston Village College, to talk to him about how we can work together, so we can do some joint community projects, but also how we can encourage some of the young people there to join Time Bank. So hopefully we're going to be doing more over the next few months as well. We've got a few other bits, like we're hopefully at the winter fair, we're going to have a stall, so hopefully lots of viewers there. Yes, Beck?
Just a suggestion, Anna, because you've got a Christmas evening get-together in December as well.
Yes.
When the winter fair was called late night shopping, it was sort of run by the Parish Council, we used to actually open up the Parish Council office and have drinks and cakes and things. So I wonder whether you might, unless you need everybody to run the stall outside, it might be possible to do that for the winter fair and so have a sort of time bank event going on in the Parish Council office and have drinks and things there, so you'd actually be able to sign up people in a bit more comfort than in Colin High School.
I think we didn't do that, in that we did it once, but because we were out of the way, people came up and we didn't have anyone come in. Because it's all up the high street and it sort of stops at the bank now because there's nothing there. So if it all is going to end at Vindis, you'll find people probably won't go up.
They won't use their choice. Well, it might be worth talking to the new organisers of the Winter Fair and see, because I bet they may be doing different things.
Well, I know been moving, I've sort of got some of the car parking area, you know, of the car firm, I don't know what they're called. So I think some of the stalls are going to be in there, because I've managed to secure it as an undercover stall, which I'm pretty excited about. But yeah, I mean, that's something we could think about. I'm not sure for this year, because I'm not sure if there'll be enough time back members to help me on the stall, as in if I then needed to be in the room. But we could think about it for another year, maybe. It's basically because we were going to do a Christmas coffee morning, and then I was talking to time back members that don't come to coffee morning or can't come to coffee morning, and they were saying they'd really like to have a Christmas thing. So I was saying, okay, well, let's do an evening, and then everybody's invited, all the time back members then that work as well as they're retired. So they were kind of the main things that I wanted to sort of share with you. I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but I know you've got a lot to cover tonight, so I don't want to take up too much time. If anybody's got any questions on anything, I'm more than happy to answer. And then also whether you wanted to talk briefly about the mobile warden scheme as well. But does anybody have any questions on anything that's on this paper? I've also put on the bottom my email address. So if anybody thinks of something after this and they want to contact me, you're more than welcome to.
Thank you.
Quick question on the objectives that you listed in current plans. Did those come from the Parish Council or from council?
The reporting ones?
Yes, well, what you're aiming to have, 80 members.
Yeah, no, that came, I believe, Kevin might know slightly more about this, but I believe that just came from the County Council, that they said that that's what we need to report on. So within the first year, so from September to September 2020, we need to have at least 80 members, of which 30 are over 65. But we can, County Council. But we can use all the numbers we've currently got. So we're already on 50 members, and we've got to be at 80 by next September. So we're doing pretty well.
Very well put.
Thank you very much. So, do you want to just briefly talk about mobile warden scheme?
Yeah.
So, had a look into it. I had a look at the stuff that you sent as well to Joe and some other bits. Elements of it definitely the time bank could do, but it's just kind of working it out. And really, it's ultimately up to the members if they want to commit to that. Because part of what time bank is it's relatively flexible. They can kind of pick and choose what they do when they do it. But there's no reason that we couldn't potentially put together a rota if there was specific older people that needed that sort of contact or needed that regular communication, and that we could have a rota that time bank members could contact, could ring or pop into somebody, between them every few days or every week kind of thing. And it's definitely something we could think about, and I know there's some time bank members that would be interested, but I think we would potentially need to put it out there to them, really.
On the mobile warden scheme,
Yes.
one of the things that jumps out straight away is DBSing.
Yes.
So how would the time banking be able to get around the DBSing on that, and how would that work? Because
Yes.
There's two things going on there, isn't there?
Yeah, so we couldn't get around it. If we were going to do that, we'd have to DBS. Pretty much. If we're going to send anyone into somebody that's elderly or vulnerable's home regularly, we have to DBS. So which means that there's a cost to that, which means that between the time bank and the Parish Council, we have to work that out. But I've spoken to CHS, the Housing Association, who support lots of the other time banks around the county, and they use a company to do their DBSs. And depending how much we pay the company, we can get DBSs anything from between £10 per DBS to £50 DBS, depending what level we DBS them at, depending what the vulnerable or elderly person's needs are, depends partly on what we're doing, and then how much we sort of pay this company to do it. So it's an option.
That fee that fee would fall onto the Parish Council then, and not to the County Council?
I would think so.
Something that we need to clarify with that.
Yes, I mean, I don't really know about the money side of it that well. I just know that if we're going to get people to go into people's homes regularly and they are currently using any sort of social care services, we need to have them DBS.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure we're like top on safeguarding.
I think even if we didn't, even if people were visiting homes without any special needs, I would, as a parish council, I'd want to make sure that people were DBS checked.
So we've got slightly more leeway on that. We've sort of basically gone to Time Banking UK to sort of ask for their clarification.
No, excuse me, can we keep up, please?
So we've been to Time Banking UK to sort of ask their clarification on that. And so we've got sort of, if it's a very one-off and the person isn't particularly what we would sort of class vulnerable, then it would potentially be okay. Basically, we're going to do it on each individual situation, and I would sort of potentially go and meet with the person and see what the situation is, and then talk with other people and potentially with other Time Bank coordinators and sort of see what they've done in similar situations. Because the idea isn't that we DBS everyone. There's no need for that. And it would be very expensive, but we just need to make sure we are where we need to, really.
Cool.
When I discussed some of the issues with you earlier in the week, Emma, one of the other points you raised, which I thought was a useful one, was that there are some things that mobile wardens do that time bank coordinators wouldn't be able to do, like the sort of personal and physical care.
Yes, so I'm not sure though that mobile wardens do that much personal and physical care, having looked into it in a bit more detail. But when so there's two sort of schemes that they do. When they just go into people that are perhaps quite elderly or vulnerable and that are hoping to stay in their homes longer, but they also do when they come out of hospital, a short period of time. So that's the one where we would not be doing any sort of physical or personal care, because we can't as part of the time bank, that mobile wardens might. But generally sort of that shouldn't be an issue. The other thing as well is if we're having any dealings with people's finances, then we need to also think about DBSs, and potentially putting other safeguards sort of things in place really, just to make sure we know sort of what's going on and everything is, done properly really.
So just jumping in, am I right in thinking that agenda item 137 is going to be discussing funding for the time bank?
No, different matter.
Is that a different thing?
Yeah, it's on the same line. It's different area that I put in, because there's some issues that have come out of this that weren't
tell me if this is an irrelevant question, but something else that I was discussing with Emma, because lack of funding is such a problem and her restricted hours are such a problem, and she's so full of ideas for ways to develop the scheme. And I don't know if you remember, I voted against it originally because I was very cynical about it and see how it was going to possibly happen. I actually bumped into Emma in a running group, and she told me all about it. And by the time we'd run 5 kilometres around the village, I was completely convinced. But I think also we couldn't have found a better advocate for time banking or a better person to run the scheme. So also congratulations to the people who chose Emma at the interview. So one of the things I was saying to her was, well, if you had amounts of extra funding, what could you achieve? And would it be useful to think, if you had this sum of money, what things could you do? And if you had that sum of money, what things could you do?
I think that I hear the question, and I think that's something that possibly that we need to go away and have a discuss what you can achieve with that funding. Because to put you on the spot and say now is not really fair. But yes, I think that's a relevant question.
Well, I did suggest before it might be something to think about.
But something that we can certainly think about. And what we're doing is, I think, will be sometime in the near future, possibly in the new year, is to have a meeting. We can sit down, we can discuss what you would like to do, what that's going to take, and also we've still got to have thinking about the mobile order scheme and how this all is going to get integrated. So Brian, had your hand up as well.
Oh yes, I was. So I've got some news about the mobile warden scheme. So the council has taken the decision, because it's not uniform across the district, and there are patches, and particularly large villages like our own, that aren't covered. So the council is going to fund fully mobile warden schemes for 3 years. So that's going to make a substantial difference to the parish council, because we won't have to pay for it.
Can I just ask which the 3 villages are?
No, there's not 3 villages.
Oh,
there's several villages.
Oh, there's 3.
So there are patches, and we're in one of those patches where there are no mobile schemes.
Yes, yeah.
There's also in the northwest of the district where there are similar patches.
Oh, brilliant.
So to make sure that there's some more uniformity, and obvious places like Sawston that could usefully have a mobile warden scheme. So there's an offer on the table from Leslie McFarlane, who's the council officer responsible for this, to come and talk to us about setting up a scheme and the finances as well. So,
I mean, that sounds great, and it would be a good way that we could work together as well, hopefully, to identify some of those sort of isolated, vulnerable people, to see then if the time bank members can help as well.
I was going to say, the way that mobile warden schemes operate is really quite individual to and tailored by the people that are running it. So some people run it in one way, some people run it in another. So in Harston, I believe they will do daily visits, and the people, or the person that's doing that, goes and does a newspaper and milk run for those vulnerable people every day.
So perhaps somebody might be able to liaise with Emma and make it so that there isn't a huge overlap.
But there needs to be a real coordination.
Yes, exactly.
Because
that's what
if people are willing to volunteer, but again, as you said, it will be dependent very much on the role that they need to provide.
Yeah.
And so it may well be that Town Bank can supplement the mobile warden scheme and the paid service eventually.
So I think maybe if we can ask Emma when she's doing her strategic planning to come up with some suggestions for money, because I think we're going to be doing our budgeting for next year very soon, aren't we?
That's for next month.
Yeah,
So
and it's, could I just finish the sentence? And this is a section of people in the village who we don't actually spend very much money on as a parish council. And I think this was brought into relief when we were discussing the mobile warden scheme and talking about whether we wanted to spend money on it. And Councillor Drew pointed out that we just agreed to spend £2,000 on goalposts. And actually, I think if you look at the expenditure of this council, you'll find that we spend an awful lot of money on sport. We're spending a lot of money for men to run around on the fields. And that's a very particular section of the village.
Be careful what you're saying, because it's not just men running around the field. It's children, it's girls, it's
begun
but
to
also
expand.
there is elderly people that also play sport as well, that are subsidised and funded. So let's be careful, be very, very careful how you present that.
But it would be good to look at where we spend our money and spend more money in this sector. And those sorts of ideas.
Yeah. Could I ask?
Sorry.
Forward, Joe. Through the chair, I would like Joe to add mobile warden for the next council meeting, so that we can consider it and we can invite Leslie to the office.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's really. I was going to just say that, Brian. If we could have that, I would recommend that as well and back you on that. If we can have that on the next meeting and invite them along, because if possible, if you could come along to that, just to hear that conversation as well, that'd be good.
Actually, what I would suggest is, as long as Emma's happy that I do so, is to put you in touch with Leslie so that you can have a chat before then anyway.
That'd be great.
Because as Bex has rightly said, and Brian's rightly said, what we don't want is this to be overlapping and a lot of things going on. There are issues of DBS in the safeguarding in there that we obviously have to be acutely aware of. So yeah, I think we'll have that meeting, we'll have that discussion, and then we'll move it on from there. Okay? And thank you very much.
Thank you. Right,
Moving on to confirm the minutes of the full parish on the 9th of July. Right, first page, starting on 49, 50, 51, 52.
I had emailed Mark Robb, and I don't think I've heard back from him, so I will need to chase on that again. If that's actually just going
He's going ahead with those.
So we're doing July?
Nine.
It was
Oh,
it had been missed off the agenda for September, and so
They had to be
we couldn't
ratified.
authorise them in September, so they're being done now.
Just done that, yes. 53.
And yes, it is because it's been advertised.
54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, that's on the agenda tonight, 61, that's also on the agenda, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70.
David, can I just ask, I haven't seen about item 63, which was the flowers and grass burders we were mentioned on the floor to investigate.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of talk, coming back to that, there's been a lot of talk, I've seen the emails going around between district and county. There's a certain female, isn't there? Is it a female? Or that's,
I don't know if that's right.
and nobody's taking responsibility, though. No, district, county aren't saying it's us, and district aren't saying it's us, it's no, it just seems that...
Maintenance of the verges is a county.
Yeah, but they're not, the issue is the planting of the flowers.
Yeah, it's county.
It's county?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Right, that's been
County,
confirmed.
county have said that they are replanting all the daffodils and that, now they want to put some wild flowers in. You've asked me to find out.
Okay.
I've asked a question,
Right.
but I'm not
Yeah.
getting any response, but...
Right, thank you. Can I have a proposal?
Page 71 and 72 on the last page.
Oh, 71, 70,
Yes.
thank you. Right,
To accept the minutes.
do I have a seconder? All those in favour? Thank you very much.
Kevin, can we record our thanks to Jane for clerking that meeting?
Yes, please do. And you did mention Bill as well.
Not that good.
Not bad. Right. So now to confirm the minutes of the full parish on the 10th of September. Right. 73, 74, 75.
Yes, I just pointed out that during the course of the meeting I did declare an interest on agenda item 81, which was the maintenance of St Mary's Parish Church pathway. I accept I didn't declare it at the beginning of the meeting, but I did declare it when the item came up, and also I did not vote on that item, and I would like to record it, please.
Okay, thank you very much. 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, moved. Yes, it did. 82. Yeah, 83. 84. 85. 86.
Is it quite to move back?
Second.
The energy works.
Yeah.
No, the line.
Yes, it is.
It's 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, Peace Courthouse.
One over the page, 98.
98. Can I have a proposer? Neil, seconder, David, all those in favour? Up, stick, now.
I'll have to do Brian as no votes, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Right, and to confirm the minutes of the extra full meeting on the 24th. Right, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115. Wind me up. 116, 117, 118, 119. Can I have a proposer?
There's a typo with the name of John Godwood, which we might correct.
In 103.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, what? Oh, yes.
Godwood.
So proposed.
Thank you, Peter. Can I have a seconder? Yeah. All those in favour?
Hold on, Vicky. Thank you.
Yeah. Matters arising? None. Planning applications. S2999 19 FL single story rear extension at 18 Tellisham Way. Comments, please.
There's nothing online, it looks okay from online, is it?
Sorry.
Go on, John.
It doesn't look like it's overlooking anyone, it doesn't look like it affects anything, so I suppose we...
You're making a proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
No objection.
Second, second that. All those in favour?
Hold on a second, I'm looking. Can't work that quick.
You voted.
I'm going to abstain from all.
Abstain and no vote, right. Thank you.
I'm abstaining from all.
Done, you can put your hands down now.
Right.
We wait, Miss Stevens.
So, any objections?
No, two abstentions.
Abstentions, you've got that. Right. S 3327 19 FL, two-storey extension on each property aligned to the existing neighbours. Extension. Site, single-storey extension to the same point of the existing extension. Existing porches, the two properties widen. The tools mainly render at slates and alignment in keeping with the context or at 234 South Terrace. My God. Comments, please, if there's any room left for comments.
Not setting a faction in an extra long time.
Well, I had a look at these plans, and so this is a pretty resubmission of one we had here a few weeks ago, didn't we?
Yes.
And I think then we were concerned about particularly about materials, but also the very awkward arrangement they seem to have with the roof alignment and the fact that it is although it's just about visible, it is visible from the front of the building. I still have concerns about this. I think I had some difficulty actually interpreting the very odd roof line that they seem to have at the rear, and I'll propose to object to this.
Okay.
On those grounds.
Right, so sorry, so the alignment of roof.
Yes.
And what else, sorry?
Design ground, well, basically it's on design, the fact that the proposed ridge of the new roof is visible from in front of from the street.
I'll second David's proposal.
So you're saying that the roof line is strange and that's a planning objection because you can see it from the street?
Well, no, that was a separate comment actually. The main objection I think is a design one, because it is a very awkward, it seems to be a sort of series of gables sort of along the back which are sort of somehow triangular. It's very odd, very odd.
But I'm not sure where we can make some comments about aesthetics.
You can object to design out of keeping with existing buildings.
Sorry,
Jane, you were
I thought architecturally it was quite different, and actually it probably wouldn't look too bad from the back of the gardens. It is a series of peaks where each property has their own peak. So from above it does look quite strange, but I think it'll look quite uniform. And my concern was more they make more bedrooms and there's no parking in the first place.
Accepting Beck's point about in terms of, is it material objection or whatever. I think the thing is, I think they make this clear in the overall proposal, that whole kind of South Terrace back at the foot area, it is a very higgledy-piggledy area. It isn't a uniform area, it is a very higgledy area. So in terms of what's previously been on, in terms of what's there, I think that is relevant. I don't really see there's any issue or problem with it, but I think it's important just if we're going to consider the aesthetics, which I know we've talked about them as well. It is a very busy area.
How do we stand on the British design statement?
As far as I'm aware, it's been through public consultation, so it has some materiality, but as far as I'm aware, it's not been fully adopted yet. Is that correct? Yeah. So it has some materiality.
But I don't think it's going to be germane in this case.
No, but it sounds as though, in fact, there's no agreement about whether we like the aesthetics of it or not. And I think Stephen's saying that in terms of the street scene and the general aesthetic around there, it's not uniform enough for this to be a...
Well, I think the four cottages there at the moment have a certain degree of uniformity. I'm aware that number one is being extended back, and the other three sort of form
well, we've had a situation where David's proposed we've got a seconder
To object.
for objection.
We just vote against the proposal?
Yeah.
So all those in favour of that proposal of objection to the development, can you please raise your hands? 3. Those who are against the proposal, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those abstaining. It's a bit too complex.
You'll know that, aren't you? No, but sorry, I'm not going to abstain, but yeah. Will you need to have
But you make a statement of saying that you haven't had a chance to read them, that you're staying.
Well, but I listened to the different arguments and...
There's 3, 4 against, so that's carried then, as what?
So it's
3,
carried.
4 against, 3 abstentions,
So-
no vote, so...
So, no objection then, is there?
No.
Okay. Moving on to S317719LB. Removal concrete render on the exterior walls and replaced with lime render works to include any necessary repairs to timber, structure, doors and windows at 107 High Street.
Yes, so this is a listed building, so this is the building that's the old Beck House. It's got a sign on the front.
Okay.
Well, it's maybe about say what you're
well, more than no objection, I compliment them on what they're doing. So returning to the original materials, and it looks a good project, I think.
I was going to say, if you're
Seconded.
proposing to support, I'm
So you're proposing, Kim seconding?
No
Okay.
objections.
No objections.
Yeah.
No, that's it.
Can I have we've got a proposal?
Sorry, I'm thank you.
You're moving.
I heard you say, propose second.
And all those for, and I'm voting because I do know what that is.
Right, so that's, yeah, 10.
you mustn't make rules.
And Brian? For information only, you've got the list.
Yeah, do we need to read all of these out?
No.
No!
Can I check why we suddenly got a long list of these?
Well,
The main to do with the...
I'm asking Joe why.
well, if you've read them, you'd have seen that they're all principally to do with the development of Abraham Road.
And the other bit, I mean, planning decisions, there's not so many on here, but that list will get longer, but it was requested at Parish Council meeting to have all the planning decisions on the actual agenda, so...
So we haven't done that in the past. Was it discussed and voted on?
Yeah, because
And
Tony
budget
did the
came.
So even though we do the planning decisions, you get that form. It was requested that they would put actually on the agenda so that members of the public could see decisions made, as opposed to obviously going on the website and looking.
So,
It's going to use an awful lot of paper.
Yeah.
welcome.
Sorry.
It was discussed and voted. Right, 131, accounts for...
Oh, hold on, so we all just note the information
All
only
noted.
noted, don't know if anyone's got...
Noted. Duly noted. Accounts for the month of September.
You've had a new sheet tonight, added extra one from when we sent the agenda out.
Yeah. Just for your notice to that, Joe, we've had a big...
So the first day for the bonfire night, we always use St John's Ambulance, and unfortunately they let me know on Friday that they're not going to be attending, they can't attend the bonfire event this year. For insurance purposes, etc., we need first aid, so I have managed to get a private company in, which is why I've had a new sheet. So this Crusader, it's got a lot more, to be honest, than what we pay for St John's, but I put it on because obviously I haven't got a chance to get quotes to get it through to the next, because bonfire night's before the next meeting. I felt we need to have first aid there purely because of the amount of people there, so I have just done.
And when
Which
you've
is
got
why it's on here for you all to
fireworks,
agree anyway, so yeah.
Yes, it's more risk than any other event.
Yeah. We have tried to get two quotes.
Do have a proposal.
Thank you.
David, all those in favour?
Yeah, thank you. Brian, would you? No, you're a...
I'm not saying. Abstaining? Right, thank you very much. Right, moving on to discuss recent councillor resignation. I think this is something you wanted, wasn't it?
Yes, I wanted to say a few words. I first wanted to say how upset I was to hear that Councillor Martin had resigned, because I think she's been one of the most hard-working members of this parish council. She's been chair of planning. There have been some meetings when it sounded as though she's possibly the only person who's looked at planning applications in advance. She's been involved in the neighbourhood plan. She's done a lot of work. It's always been obvious in meetings that she's looked at everything beforehand. I was here for the full parish council meeting that she chaired when Kevin was away, and what I witnessed on that evening was a great many people interrupting her, talking over her, ignoring her, patronising her. She was chairing the meeting very efficiently and effectively, in my view, but there were councillors who ignored her attempts to do that and went on talking after she had indicated that the discussion was finished. I wasn't at the meeting that followed that, which I think was the final event that caused her to resign. But what I've heard about it, I find, well, it sounds disgraceful. What I wanted to say was that I think there's a problem at this parish council that that kind of atmosphere has come to often be the norm. And what I've found at meetings is often that I can only make a point if I'm prepared to shout and be really quite aggressive about it. And my worry is that parish council members who are not prepared to shout, or who are possibly unable to shout, will feel that they cannot make their voices heard. This particularly applies to women, because I've also, as well as being ignored and interrupted, I've often felt extremely patronised here. I've often found that I will suggest something in a meeting, it skates by, 10 minutes later, somebody who happens to be male makes the same point and is listened to and applauded. We've had another female parish councillor resign, and my general understanding of her resignation was that she felt that she simply couldn't make her voice heard in meetings. Would anyone like to tell me her name?
What, the school teacher.
Thank you. I'd like to know that Jane Merrick's the only person who remembers that councillor's name. At the moment, a lot of voluntary organisations are struggling to find volunteers, and if you look at voluntary organisations across the country, you will find that most of the volunteers who support them are women. So if you're an organisation that's creating a toxic environment for women, you are going to be struggling to survive. So I would like to suggest that this council needs to address this problem if it's going to survive.
Thank you for that. There were certainly some comments on there that I would agree with you on. That there has been times where the meeting seems to have come into basically a kindergarten playground, people trying to shout above each other. And that's one of the reasons why I installed that we raise hands and you sit and wait. If I catch you jumping in, I do try and step on that. Janet, unfortunately, during the meeting, said she'd had enough. She felt that she was being verbally abused and she was not at all happy about it. She felt extremely uncomfortable. I did try to talk her out of it after the meeting, but she said her husband and herself had this problem and she was not at all happy with it. The other councillor left because one of the reasons was that, but there were other reasons as well involved in her leaving. So yes, two female councillors have left, but for two different reasons.
May I ask, I didn't want to talk too much about what had happened at that meeting because I wasn't actually present, but may I ask whether any complaint has been made, whether any apology has been given, whether there was any kind of reprimand given at the meeting?
There was, at the meeting, there was an incident where a comment was made and I raised it that the comment was not in good taste, and the councillor did apologise and actually apologised very fervently and strongly. So yes, it was addressed at that meeting. So then the concerns were raised, the council apologised. I'm not going to name who was involved because that wouldn't be fair. And the meeting moved on. But Janet felt that she couldn't carry on anyway. One.
So I'd just like to make a comment about the responsibility of the chair to manage the meeting properly. I think that if we got that managed better, and it's a joint responsibility. We as councillors have to allow you or other chairs of committees to operate properly so that we've got a reasoned, rational debate. People don't talk over each other, it's very important. I'm not sure I would reflect some of the concerns that makes about gender, but that's her privilege to say that, and we can disagree amicably over the state of it, but we do need to do more organised sharing. So, for example, having either the clerk or the deputy chair actually catch people when they're putting up their hands and trying to do that. So, but it's not necessarily happening, and you said about the layout, for example, where that may not be happening.
I've been trying to solve some of these problems, but what I'm particularly talking about isn't a meeting that Kevin was chairing. It was at a meeting that Councillor Martin was trying to chair. So, although there's an apparent acceptance that we can elect women to chair and vice chair positions, if once they're in that position, the tendency to ignore them, interrupt them, talk over them is amplified, then it's going to be very difficult to sustain, and that's why Councillor Martin has resigned, I think. Does the meeting feel that, as a council, you'd like to make some kind of apology to her? Do you feel that, as a council, this is an issue that should be addressed in some more meaningful way?
I first and foremost think that as a council we would naturally apologise and wish her the best. And I personally am sorry to see her go because I thought she was a fantastic vice chair and also a fantastic chair of planning. As you said, she read everything methodically. She was very good at what she'd done. So we, as a council, as the chair of the council, I am quite prepared to draft a letter and apologise for the way that she feels that she's been treated. I do think that moving on there's two things that I would like to see happen within this council. And one of the things that is apparent is we've got 19 seats on this council and we struggle to fill them. And I know we've had co-options and there's the element of skills and things that you bring. But for me, this is not just gender-based, there's also age-based. And I think that with the greatest amount of respect, there's a lot of people in here that are not the right side of 50, shall we say, being polite. You know, and I would like to encourage, as much as I like to encourage women, but I'd also like to encourage younger people onto the council as well. And coming back to your point of being shouted down, they're not going to come along. They're going to think that they're being bullied and they're not being listened to. One of the things that I'm really keen on getting done is talking to the village college and setting up a youth council. And so hopefully they will engage and get things moving along. We're a growing village, we're a developing village. There's a huge amount of stuff that's going on. And with the development and the growth and the new local plan coming, there's a lot of other stuff coming on, the Greater Cambridge Partnership. I think that the younger generation we don't listen enough to, and I really would like to get better engagement with that younger generation. Because that's one thing we tend to forget is we've had our tomorrow, we're talking about their tomorrow, and we've got to get it right for them. And the only way we're going to get it right for them is if we listen to them. And I do feel, and I've been at meetings and I've got councillors here that have been at meetings with me, and I've bashed on at district and county about better engagement with the younger generation, as well as it being gender-based. So I think there's a lot of things that I would like to see change, and I would support you in any way we can move this forward. But regarding the situation we've got, we are where we are now. I would encourage more females on. It's always good to have females on board. We've got two.
I think if you ask the women who are currently on the Parish Council, the ones that you've got left, we would say no, we would not encourage women to join this Parish Council in its current state.
Yeah, well, the only way you change that is by getting people on and they
No, you don't change it by getting people on and then ignoring them.
No,
we have to improve the council.
You're going against what you just said about over talking. So when you say something, stick to what you want to say and stick to the argument. If you have people come on, you change, you move those times, and that's, you know, governments are changing now. In the bigger picture is they're bringing more and more women in, and the whole field is changing. We're moving into a whole new world. So I would encourage women to come on. I'd encourage youth to come on.
Brian, Lindsay.
So for me, yes, good. And I think we can move forward, and there's something we can do. But Brian.
Yes, I would be most happy for you to write apologies without passing whatever letter that you send to Councillor Martin, because I don't know what it is that the council as a whole would be apologising for, so I'd want to see that before we send such a letter. But I would absolutely endorse what both of you and others have said about Martin's diligence and attention to detail and dedication to the work which you put in for the council. And I would absolutely endorse such commendation in writing too.
Might I just clarify what I'm suggesting? I'm not suggesting that we write to Councillor Martin, giving her what amounts to a school report and commending her diligence. I'm suggesting that we write to express our regret as a council that she's felt impelled to resign because she felt she couldn't stay here and change things. Which is why I'm suggesting that things need to change first. So I'm not suggesting, that's not what I'm suggesting.
Okay. Stephen?
I think we are not actually talking about the real kind of issue that is being raised. So the first thing I would say is that Lex has raised two things, which I have a feeling as a relative new councillor, that clearly is not going to be the case, that somebody is put in a position where they feel they have to resign based on 2 meetings, a couple of meetings or whatever. I sense that what Councillor Laxton is referring to is a more longer term situation. Would that be fair?
Absolutely.
When situations such as this arise, one of the things that always strikes me is that it is so easy to be defensive. It is so easy to say that those who are in a position of being the sort of victim in the situation somehow have to put themselves forward, or more women in this situation have to join. I am completely appalled to think that having been at 2 meetings and having been the person who had to apologise to Councillor Martin at the previous meeting for what I thought was an entirely reasonable comment, but Kevin rightly pointed out wasn't, for which I then apologise, and as Kevin pointed out, apologise very, very clearly. I'm appalled to think that I might in some way be personally responsible for this situation arising. Absolutely appalled. I feel completely ashamed to think that I might in any way have contributed to that. But at the same time, as I said at the start, these things don't arise because one person says one thing, because one meeting has something happening within it. I think it's entirely valid to point out that in the previous meeting, when the meeting was chaired in Kevin's absence, that it was very difficult, and that was made very difficult to chair that meeting. But that's something that we all have to reflect on. And this may be difficult, but this conversation seems to be being had by a very small number of people. And I would have to disagree with the point that you made that the solution is for more willing to come on and join. When you are solving a situation where there is a lack of diversity, with whatever group that might be it older people, younger people, be it men, women, be it diversity based on ethnicity or whatever, you don't say to the people who are underrepresented, come on and join and everything will be fine, and by joining you change it. What you do is you recognise that there is an issue and you then tackle that issue in order to make the organisation, in this case the Parish Council, feel more welcoming. So I think that we either as a council recognise the validity of what Councillor Laxton has said, and we acknowledge that that is a problem. And I'd like to be the first to hold my hand up and say that if in a meeting that my conduct has fallen below the standard that should be expected and has caused significant stress for somebody that I'm really appalled by that, but I think it's important that we all recognise that. And whilst I'm prepared to sit here and say yes, on that occasion I did not do the right thing, and even though an apology was made, that doesn't take away what happened. Without wishing to single out others, the solution to discussion is not for us to just sit and be silent and say nothing. The solution is for us all to do that thing of looking in the mirror rather than out the window and recognising where we are. Your comment, Kevin, about, people being on the wrong side of 50. Without wishing to be unpleasant, is anyone else around this table not 50?
No, just you.
Just me?
Thank you.
No. Anyone else was, I was diligently and carefully excluding the officers. And I've only got 3 years to go. So, I don't know, that I would ramble on forever, but I feel I want to stop.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Martin. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
Can I make council 14th of February 2017? So I'm a young councillor, and my experiences of seeing how things are done were not favourable. I believe in what Beck has been saying for a very long time, that unless and until we do not understand the skills set of the councillors and utilise those skills for us to move forward, we will always have a gap. Furthermore, if I may, and I'm not trying to point fingers at anyone, the relationships of the councillors outside our meetings are appalling as well. I had one instance, a councillor was passing by me on the other side of the road, and I was passing the other side of the road. There was no greetings whatsoever. That tells me that we do not acknowledge each other as councillors and work together to improve something. And it's necessary that we, as councillors who said, do a little bit of inside thinking ourselves and see how we can do things for the parish. I fully appreciate bringing in other councillors is not easy. It has never been easy as I can observe from my experience with the seat. I've talked to several people as well, within the young crowd, about 30, 35. So at the moment we can't come in because we've got our own carriers to look after, our own members to look after. Probably after the age of 45, 50 might. Diversity is something that you talked to me about, which we need to address as well. So that will make a difference. So council is changing. And changing when it happens after all the development trusts are there ready and people have started moving. And the responsibilities are actually for. And to get the rights, to get people in, we need to be careful. Only then we will move forward. Or we just have councillors there and not help over the long term.
Fair point. Fair points. Kieran?
Yeah, I don't want to. I mean, I agree with lots of what's been said to go over that ground, but I think the word that hasn't been raised, but I think is important, is respect. And I don't think the way that we have treated each other in meetings, possibly outside meetings too, has been particularly respectful. And I think it's obviously a massive shame that Janet felt the need to resign, but here is an opportunity for us to reset some of how we've been running things. I'm glad that a number of people have voiced that.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I take on the point that the ageism comment and things like that, for me is, one thing I think, one way of addressing this is we're here to represent the village of Sawston, and it's how we talk to the community, we talk to the people, we talk to all age groups and everything, and it's giving the proper representation of what the people of this village want and expect of us as well. One of the comments I've received from members of the public, and that it was actually directed at me when I became chair, and I was actually quite shocked, and it opened my eyes, was they thought I was making the meetings political. And I said, well, that's not my intention. My intention was to keep the meeting neutral. So they said, well, and they came up with some suggestions of what I could possibly do, how I could deal with that. So it's keeping this room as the Sawston Parish Council. That's number one. Number two, and I totally agree, is we all do need to look at ourselves, and respect is the big thing about all of this, and respecting each other for what they do bring to this council. Sometimes it's easy to forget that a lot of work goes on in a parish council, not just by the chair and the vice chair and the clerk, but other councillors who do get actively involved in doing things, and they do it for free. They do it because they care. They do it because they want to help the village. They do it because they want to guide it and do what's best for the village and encourage things in the village. So again, I think you summed it up pretty well there with the word respect. I think let's all go away tonight and look into the mirror and just make sure that we can make changes. If we're going to change it, it's us in this room that's going to do that. And so I'm thankful for Beck for bringing it up, actually, and I think it's really important because sometimes we do lose track. And again, thank you for that, and I appreciate it. But it is a golden opportunity for us to look at ourselves and for us to move forward. Okay? Right, moving on. Agree the clients to remove 3 tree stumps.
When we had, going back to the tree survey, which I always refer back to, we had all the tree work done, but there were some trees that our groundsmen were able to remove, but now we've got the quotes to get the actual stumps ground out and removed so we can replant trees.
Whereabouts are they, Jo? Sorry. Is that the wrong question?
In Sawston.
Within
the parish boundary. Yeah, so, well, I probably wouldn't know, but anyway, they're ones that, yeah, like I say, the head groundsman's removed them, but we don't have the machines and that to bore the holes out. So the quote for the removal of the three is well, we've got two quotes at £300 plus VAT and one quote at £245 plus VAT. All the same spec, it's just winding it down and removing the wall.
Have we used the 245 subcontracted before?
Yeah, we have. Probably in some time, so.
I propose we go for the cheaper option.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Thank you.
Joe, do we have to do stumps frequently enough to make it worth us buying a stump grinder?
I think we not really, because normally for the other trees that we had to fell, we got quotes that they did that then. It was only because we had, it's because our groundsman did them, so it doesn't look to not offered as enough.
I haven't got nowhere to put it.
Naturally, what a big groundsman.
Moving on to discuss the vote closure from Members' Day.
No, sorry, you missed
No,
the one before.
Snooker club.
Oh,
I've been seeing this. Don't miss that one.
Have we?
to discuss the vote closure. To discuss the S137 donation request from Salisbury Snooker Club.
Could we have a copy of that so we know what we're applying
I haven't
for?
seen it.
I
No,
haven't
seen it.
No, we haven't had any.
Well, this was the one we've discussed before. This was the one.
Yeah.
This is the one where we discussed before. I think what the concern was whether the Parish Council would be allowed to support it through this S137 donation. Because we had to clarify if it was involved with the church or not.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So we have discussed it. Kieran's looked into it a bit more for us.
Try to say a bit more,
Yeah,
but I'm not sure if we hadn't had that for...
Well, I can say what
was
it
it
is
emailed to
for.
people?
I don't know it right now, sorry.
Well, let me do the clarification.
You do the clarification and then I'll just
Because there was
explain.
some question about, as you may know, the legislation prohibits the parish councils from supporting the church. It's a bit vague about what the church means, but the church. And because the name of the organisation is Salisbury Church Institute, there was a worry that meant that. But I was able to consult the village oracle in the person of Mary Dickon, who was able to explain the original foundation of the Church Institute that was founded by the then vicar to give young people something wholesome to do, and it doesn't receive any funding from the church, nor does it fund the church, although it's built on land that belongs to the Wakeling charity. I don't think you don't pay rent, do you? And whilst nominally anyway, there was another charity involved, it was the slide, I've forgotten. Sorry? Yes, but I think from my point of view, I was clear enough that there wasn't a sort of backdoor mechanism.
Yeah, I saw the emails and I got the impression that it was pretty clear that we could actually move forward with this now.
Yeah.
So just Jane.
How much is it for?
I just wanted to ask, can you just remind us how much the...
So, well, I mean, the amount requested is 4,200. It's replacement of the main room ceiling, grid system tiles, insulation. Does not include removal of the old system. I don't know if you want to bring them in since they're here to, do you want
what we can do is if the council is in agreement, I can suspend standing orders for 5 minutes and give them the opportunity to make a representation. All those in favour? Right. If you'd like to make your case.
Okay. Yeah, so we're requesting the money to replace a ceiling that's been in for about 30 or 40 years, that's unrepairable and needs completely replacing. We've got members, and we do a lot of refurbishment to the hall. We've been doing it for a few years now, and decorating and putting new toilets in, and we'll be helping with taking the ceiling down. We just need the money for a company to come and erect the new suspended ceiling in the hall. We don't get any, we're just a members only organisation. We don't get money from anywhere else. We're a registered charity, and it's for, we've got age ranges from 14 up to 80, about I think currently 60 members, and it's a great place. And it just is, you know, it needs, we've got ceiling tiles that are starting to fall down because we can't get replacements because they're imperial tiles and the new ones don't fit. So as the tiles are coming down, it's hazardous, and we need the ceiling to keep the heating in the building.
Are you asking us for the full cost of the work?
I think we've asked for, ideally, yes, please. We have filled in an application for grant or donation form.
So have you've not asked anybody else?
You're the first port of call.
Okay, because I think, am I right in thinking we normally try and persuade people to find different funding sources rather than us through the whole lot? I mean, you know, people will have lots of suggestions. The fun run supports lots and lots of local projects, and yours sounds like a very deserving one. South Cambs District Council has a community chest.
Tesco do the bag thing. Tesco do the bag thing.
There's also JHC you could apply to. John Huntington's strategy.
Yeah.
Can I ask the clerk something quickly?
Yes.
Do I remember that when we adopted the S137 policy, there was something that we could only make a decision on the amount they asked for? We couldn't.
You can't expect more than the amount.
No. Right, but could we?
You could, yeah.
I thought that it was kind of all or nothing.
No. But we haven't got much left for this till March 2020.
So that was the question I was going to ask the clerk, how much there is actually in the pot?
£275.
£275. So the situation that we have is we have £275 left in the actual pot. If we do agree to fund it all the way, then we would have to we could have to probably wait until the next.
Well, you've got that, or there's with 137 money, we can spend a certain amount per elector, which is fine, but then obviously we'd have to take the money out of reserves if we wanted to do that.
So there's that option, but it's...
Sorry.
Right?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about how the club was financed. You mentioned membership, but was suggesting, I think, that there wasn't any other income. Is that correct?
We have two incomes. One is the membership fee annually, and one is the light meters on the tables inside. That's the sole income of what we generate, and that is just enough to cover our electric bills and heating bills and general maintenance. Yeah, we don't make a profit as such on that.
I was just interested to understand.
Yeah, that is the sole.
And you're not paying anything for the use of the building, is that?
No, we don't pay anything for use of the building.
And who covers the rates for that? Is that something you cover, or
No, we get rate exemption because we're a charity.
Right, okay.
And that has been going on for some time.
Yes.
Can I just add one quick thing that some of you may not know? We believe that the Sawston Church Institute was the first church institute in the country at that time, and it's still something which we are quite proud of. It's the first one in the country, being this Sawston Church Institute, to be an institute as such. It's a bit shame to see it fall into such disrepair that you can't go on. When I attended the neighbourhood planning meeting recently, when I was there, one of the comments on the results coming in from your survey was lack of amenities within the village and what we could do to help. Well, it'd be nice to see us help to keep that amenity going.
Can I come back there?
John, could you just let Tony come and then come back on? Tony?
Yeah. Did I hear you correctly to say that the amount that we've got left on the S137 was 275?
Yes.
And we can't go above that limit because that's set.
Well, no, I think, just to clarify, that's what's in the budget.
That's what we budgeted
We
for
could,
donations.
we're not legally prohibited from
Yeah.
spending any more.
Oh, right, so it's not legal.
Because legally we can, yeah, so
Right.
it's,
Yes.
Right. Well,
language.
going on from that then, yes, it's useful to ask people who request money from us like this to seek other funds as well. But if they approach somebody else, one of the first questions somebody else would ask is, well, does the parish council support you?
Yes.
And if the parish council doesn't support you, that's a big no-no as far as any other supporters are concerned. So I do think we ought to make a donation. If we were limited to 275, I was going to suggest we made a donation now and then put some more, or ask them to come back in the next financial year. But if we're not limited to 275, then I think we could be more generous.
Yes. Would you like to suggest a figure?
I was going to say,
Go on, so. Go on. No, go on.
Okay, thank you. So the question is really whether we want to support another local charity that's providing sporting facilities, in this case to knock balls about on the indoors. The question for me is whether the amount we're spending on different sports elsewhere, is it equitable, is it fair? It seems to me to be something that we could reasonably support, so that we've got some diversity of activities that people can be involved in. And it's just a question of how much we feel is appropriate that we offer. And I think we could go some considerable way if the amount is, what, 4,500%?
Yeah.
I think in terms of what we spend as a council, we could do as a one-off quite substantial, maybe 50% of that.
4,200.
Yeah, so 50% would be 2,100. If you could take that away and go to other people to ask for funding, we mentioned district council, for example. So
what are you proposing then?
that's a general proposal. There we go.
Stephen, you had a hand up.
I did have a question, but the process has now moved to the point I hoped it would, so I don't feel the need to ask.
Okay.
And to be fair, if we've proposed and seconded, we should
need to take the vote.
Well, you've done well.
Roger, you had to say.
Roger,
How many women are there?
Right, okay, we have a proposal, so I think
Have you asked me a question? I don't think that's a question about it.
we've had a proposal and a second, so I can't continue.
Roger had his hand up before you.
We're not supposed to, actually.
I raised my hand before.
Go on, I'll allow it quick. That's too long.
I fully endorse what Brian is saying.
Yeah.
The equitable distribution of sports, especially. I played in the snooker club in 92 and 93 when I came to Sawston. And it's a club where I met a lot of youth at that time. And I think it will be a very good cause to support because they genuinely need the support at the moment. If they're depending on just the membership and the meters, line meters, and just paying the basic bills, I think we should consider that.
Well, I was going to say we have, because you've made a
Yeah.
proposal
Yes.
to...
I second it.
No, it's been seconded.
Right, so that's fine. So we had a proposal, we had a second for 50% of the cost to be donated by the council. Can I ask you to raise your hands, all those in favour?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And thank you for coming, thank you very much for coming along. Appreciate that. And hope you can move forward and get some other support as well. Alright, moving on to discuss the road closure for Remembrance Day ongoing cost budget £1,500 a year. This was discussed at put on the agenda for the meeting. I wasn't here and deferred because it was basically me that you wanted to clarify the issue with. Is that what is the Parish Council responsible for? The Parish Council will only be responsible for closing the road. That's it. So we will class as the organiser, the Royal British Legion are classed as the facilitator. So we close the road, we organise the road to be closed, the road closure people supply the necessary manpower needed, and we pay for it. Everything else the Royal British Legion do.
I just wanted to put on here as well, just to say that to vote that we agree we'll be putting this money into budget.
Yeah, so the idea is that this is going to be an ongoing thing. Originally, we thought that the County Council may take this expense on. They won't, so it's a cost that is going to come to the Parish Council for the Remembrance Day, and it will be ongoing. So the idea
Recurring.
So I just think we should
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so we've already voted to spend it this year.
Yeah.
We have, it's just
So,
to be budgeted.
should we, it's one thing putting it in the budget, which can happen during the budgeting process, but do we want to make this an indefinite commitment, or do we want to put a time limit?
I think that's what they're all discussing. Can I propose, because I think we're going to be very short of time, can I propose that we discuss this again at the next meeting, which will be...
No, because we're doing budget.
On Tuesday. All right then. I think one of the concerns that maybe not raised before is I'm slightly uncomfortable about the idea of the Parish Council giving the money with somebody else then running the event, which seems slightly strange, and I think because it's not a village.
It's a village event.
It's a village event. So all we're doing is we're making sure that the roads are closed and the event is secure and safe. Apart from that, they would do what they normally do. The Royal British Legion will carry on their work.
I think that's my concern, that it's focused around a few very definite groups in the village, and I've had some discussions with parishioners about the fact that they wanted to try and suggest alternative ways and different slants to the day that might be more inclusive.
That's something I think you need to discuss with the Royal British Legion, because it's about Remembrance Day, it's about fallen soldiers. And so,
well, let's not start that discussion here, but I think the feeling was that they weren't terribly amenable to discussion, but I wonder if we're funding it, we could make it more inclusive.
I was just going to say, I think we need to make it clear we're not giving the money to anybody. We're committing to close the road.
Yes.
So we close the road, whatever happens between those two road closures,
So remember that
it's nothing to do with us.
now county aren't paying for it, we are responsible for it.
Yeah.
We have got much choice of it.
Stephen?
Yeah.
I once again feel that answers my question.
And was also Oh, sorry, David.
So I was just to move matters on. I was going to make a formal proposal, but presuming there has been inflation correction in there as well. I mean, you can't just commit yourself to 1,500
Well, I should get the
inflation. So I think it's a slight wording issue, that's all.
Yeah.
Otherwise, with that amendment, I'm happy to propose that.
Okay.
Well, what I was going to say, I think, I mean, every year we go through a budgeting process, and there are things that we know we do each year, and we budget for them. So,
I didn't have to bring it to council.
no.
We could have discussed it at the budget, but I just wanted to make sure that the whole, because obviously, whichever budget it comes to, I know it's not got agreed by full, but I thought it come here first to agree that we are going to pay for the road commission.
Well, exactly. So that's what I was suggesting. If we take out the figure,
Yes, it won't.
It's more that we agree that the parish council will take on the responsibility of closing the road each year.
Yes, okay.
So you made that as a proposal, yeah?
Well, David made it. I'm happy to second it.
Yeah.
Right, we've had the proposal, we've had
I take
this.
on responsibility and pay for our opening costs.
Yeah, well, because we'll budget for that each time when in the budgeting process.
Right, so we've had a proposal, we've had a second. All those in favour?
Is that everyone? Yeah, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Right, to discuss the maintenance of the footpath between Sawston and Whittlesford. Again, it was deferred because I wasn't here, and I did watch the video, and your comments I thought were valid, which I will take up with you.
And I've got concerns about the very first bit of it that goes off the high street, so not Hatley's Walk, but the bit before that. And I've been meaning to ask you about that for a long time, because there's a lot of barbed wire along there, and I think it's actually, you're not supposed to have barbed wire next to a path.
So
we just need to talk, we need to put on another agenda, because you're not talking, that's not the
so this is all coming about because of the correspondence between Whittlesford and us about who is responsible for the maintenance of the greenery, not the actual maintenance of the footpath.
So which bit of the path are we talking about?
Which bit?
Bit of the path?
Between the path that goes from Sawston up.
But it was only the bit over from the bypass
to
the
railway line to the river.
The railway line to the river. And
that's
right.
Yeah,
That's what I was
Sorry.
which is why.
And we look at chatting it all out, we are actually responsible for cutting back the grass verge on that.
So I'll speak to the groundsman and that will get sorted.
It is part of Sawston Parish.
There isn't much of a verge.
It's not, there's not much.
But do you mean the fields on either side,
So-
or the nettles next to
It's
the
over,
beach?
I was there on Sunday or whatever. Yeah, Saturday anyway.
What,
And,
which is
and the grass is overgrown the path. It's difficult to get through people past.
Yeah.
So it just needs to.
Yes, so I'll speak, we were just, it was,
Needs edging.
it will edge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's
cutting
fine.
the nettles.
Yeah.
Have we cut it before?
No, because we always thought it was Whittlesford,
Well,
and
and
never
it's
cut
always
it because
been
they
well
said it was ours, and now
before,
we.
that's why I'm
Oh, well, I don't know who's done it, but it.
We got the
we-
Shannon County.
Well, I'm sure I spoke to somebody I met on the footpath about it, who turned out to be a farmer, and she,
Well, anyway, I need to
So the bottom line is it is our
So
responsibility.
Beck's correct. The farmer had had a mowing device on that grass and cut down the main length. But the problem still prevails that the edges are overgrowing over the tarmac. So they need to study that.
Which is our responsibility. So the bottom line of it is it is our responsibility, and it's just to let you know that our groundsman will be trimming it back. Okay?
As they currently do with the,
Well, they
with
do
the
with all
bits
the other
this side
things,
of the
just we
bypass.
were never told to do it, so anyway, it's fine, we'll put it on the next one.
To discuss time banking funding allocation. You had the presentation earlier. This is regarding the time banking funding. There was to get the Innovate and Cultivate Fund and the support from the county. Was a bit of a process, but we got there in the end to find out that they agreed that we could have the funding that we put in for. So it's £12,000 over 2 years, which meets with what we put in. Then they dropped the bombshell that we would have to pay £500 to CHS, is it?
Yeah.
To the CHS for this. And I argued that, and I said, well, hold on, you know, we wasn't told this at the beginning, and we're finding new things about this all the time. And the bottom line was that if we didn't agree to pay the £500, we wouldn't get the funding. So I said, well, can I go back and ask District Council if they would be prepared to pay the £500 to CHS for the time-making facility?
What's the, it's CHS software.
Oh, no, yeah, the housing people, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is for the software, when you say the facility, yeah, there's a software that has been developed by, it's not being developed by CHS though, is it? It's a wider thing, isn't it?
A flat fee or a hosting fee or a purchase?
It's a one-off fee, £500.
So we're buying it to keep? It's a lifetime licence for the software?
I think that's worth clarifying.
Yeah. But I mean, if I could ask you to look into that for us.
No, I think this is something that Joe ought to ask officer to officer in the because again, until we know what it is, I'm not happy asking for money. Don't know where it would come from. I don't know where we'd possibly fund it from, unless you know, we've got some details of what we're being asked, and this issue of being retrospectively asked to make a contribution that wasn't made available is flaky in the extreme.
Absolutely. And I did make that comment as well. Right, so we can, Joe, you and I, we'll get together on that and move forward with that one. Right. 138, to discuss reference to chair and vice chair for the council of the committees. This is something that was brought up at Evans.
I can't remember, yes, it was a meeting that you and I were at. I can't remember which one it was.
And the idea is that when you have a chairman or chairman, chairwoman, chairperson, chair this, chair that, is to one of the things that the suggestion that was going to be put onto the on the table was just to call it chair. You're the chair or the vice chair, not vice chairman or vice chairperson or vice chairwoman. So I'm opening it up to discussion.
I propose that we use the expression chair and vice chair as a future reference.
Seconded.
Seconded. Right. All those in favour?
Well, I haven't even finished writing it. Who? Brian, Tony, unanimous.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss? Well, we have a proposal on the second.
That was unanimous, thank you.
Can we have a hands up again, please?
Sorry.
All those in favour?
Right, you don't, so you're not voting, right, okay, so that's 10.
Right,
Against?
Against?
No, just not voting.
One
No
against,
votes?
one against, no, one no vote.
Abstentions?
No, we're done.
Okay. Right, to discuss.
Chair. Thank you, Chair.
To discuss the quotes for the repairs to the footpath at St Mary's Church. Right, we have got 3 quotes for the repairs of the footpath at St Mary's Church.
Before we do
course,
that,
yeah.
can someone just tell us exactly both what's happening and also about the just we are responsible for it.
So we are, because we have to, St Mary's Church, because it is a closed churchyard, it is responsibility of the Parish Council for the maintenance of it, which does include the footpath, eventually we found out.
We did, after a huge amount of work.
Yeah. The footpath that's there is concrete slabs, but they've just been laid on sand for so long that some have broken, it's very uneven, quite slippery, and there's been concerns from parishioners visiting the church and also obviously for the funeral directors carrying the coffins.
And it is getting
there's quite
dangerous.
some concern, yeah. So I've met with 3 landscapers and also a guy from the church and Reverend Partridge.
Yeah.
And they've all been given the same brief, so it is to use as many of the slabs as they can, to lift them up and reuse them, relay the path on concrete, whatever it is, mortar, and have a gradual slope which will go down to the open churchyard, so it's not so much of a slope, it'll be a gradual slope.
And is this something that hasn't been repaired for decades? And this sort of
Yeah, it's just been it's quite, it's quite well, it's not sustainable.
So, I have 3 quotes. First one is for £12,043 plus VAT.
All the same brief, by the way.
The second one is for £6,950 plus VAT, and the third one is for £6,610 plus VAT. They're all of equal spec.
The lowest quote is a village company.
The lowest quote is a village company. So, open to the floor.
I think we should, as a policy, favour local businesses. It's better value to cost. If it's the cheapest, that's definitely a bonus. But we shouldn't just go by cost. We want to use a local company as well.
I was just going to say, from a finance point of view, this seems to me the sort of thing that our reserves are for. Because our reserves are not, they're things that we've saved up by not spending money.
And we do have money in the cemetery budget that we have to put into reserves, which hasn't been spent. So.
You mentioned that the payments were a bit slippery. When we do them again, are we going to make sure that the
they'll be
slippery?
They'll be clear.
That is important because the funeral carries.
I mean, they'll clean them, but the trouble is they can't do too much to them because, so I was told that any changes, if they had new slabs, that you have to get permission from diocese and everything. So they're going to do what they can, but they can't actually, clean them.
No, I'm talking about
well, they're going to
slipping, especially
they'll do what they can.
I'm sure they'll consider that because that's the whole point of, that's the whole point of replacing them, is to make sure that nobody
I have a proposer for the lowest cost. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah.
No, you propose. Kieran, all right, Kieran, thank you. All those in favour?
One extension?
No vote.
Thank you very much for that.
Point of order, Chair. Just, I noticed Becky used the term, we should, as policy, prefer local firms, and I just want to be cautious that we don't end up making policy on the fly and then say we agree.
Good point.
Yes,
it's something I'd like us to discuss. But yes, absolutely.
If we want to do that, I mean, it might be worth considering value for money.
Yeah, absolutely.
And whether we include using local suppliers as part of our policy.
Because all of the quotes, we should be looking at what's best value for money, not the lowest quote. So it does actually, but that's something we can bring up as well.
Yes.
And I do, whenever I get quotes, I always do try to get local companies anyway, but that's my first point.
Okay, moving on. 140, request for volunteers for the parish councillors for the bonfire.
Get a clean sheet.
Right, so, take into consideration.
Just remind me which date?
Second.
Always.
Take into consideration the discussion we had earlier and other things, and showing that we're there, we're the people, and we love our job. So, can I have some volunteers for helping on the night?
James,
Jane, Neil, David. Marshall,
we do need you to turn up though, we do definitely need to commit. We definitely Steve?
I would love to be able to say yes, however,
Steve?
the last 15 years I have done the compare duties at my rugby clubs. And it is unfortunately a permanent fixture, so I'm afraid on this occasion I have to fail in my duty.
We're not failing in your duty.
Right, thank you everyone.
You
that's
choose that.
offered.
That's enough.
Yeah, Tony?
Yeah, well, yeah, it is what it is, yeah.
We need
I'll
loads of
work
it.
with it.
Loads.
I'll volunteer to count the money again.
Oh, yes, that'll be lovely. Oh, thank you, Jill.
I know what that's
Yeah,
because I'm going to bury that.
Oh, right, yeah, I've got plenty, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Right. Oh God.
Oh.
To discuss the energy codes for the street lighting. Brian, I'll let you go on.
Yeah.
This is bloody ridiculous.
Absolutely.
The most farcical thing I've come across in a long time. So we have got the county council trying to divest themselves of responsibility for aggregating and charging back out. That's going to cost everybody a shed load of time, money and effort to try and replicate something. And it's clearly nonsense, and I would like us as a parish council to actually write back to the county council and object to what they're asking us to do, because I think we've done it in absence of understanding of the consequences on the parish councils, ourselves included, and that we join forces with other local parish councils to actually object to the whole process.
Yes, so I would endorse Brian's comments. I would add also the fact that the information we've been provided with is completely incomprehensible. I have absolutely no idea why we're being charged 3 separate unit rates, why we're being charged for dawn to dusk when they shouldn't be on anyway, and why we're also being charged a rate which is continuous when they should only be on from dusk to dawn. So, and on the latest one which came around, I noticed we're being asked to enter into a contract for 1,458 months, which if you work it out expires on the 31st of March 2041. Well, there you go. Find you a very good bargain. Go on, inflation link, if it's inflation fixed for all that period.
Can I propose that David and Brian collaborate to write them a stinking letter? What's the best mechanism for collaborating with other parish councils?
I think that has to really go through John, the SLCC with Cambridgeshire. But we've got an acre event coming up.
Yeah, I'm going to have SLCC. I can email. I can give them the information, and then they'll put it out to all parish councils. So then I can ask who.
And I think, if I'm right, that we were going from an unmetered supply to the proposal which is a metered, with 3 different meters. So the whole thing was a nonsense, and going to a utility company who would obviously slice off part of the fee, the whole thing was just...
Yes. Well, so could we leave the two of you to consolidate on that, because it sounds as though both of you have got a really good grasp of the facts involved. I've got 2 questions. One is there any legal basis for objecting, or are we purely objecting because it's stupid?
Well, I think
we're objecting because what we're agreeing.
I think we have a reasonable objection on the grounds of the information we provide is being provided in a form which is totally incomprehensible to an ordinary layperson and doesn't appear to be internally consistent.
I think that the nature of the problem is that the county is obviously wanting to divest themselves of as much responsibility for anything that they can do. So, and it's part of its general trend to push down to the parish councils to deal with stuff that they really have no particular needs to do.
Which is a trend that we want to oppose, because they're doing it because they've been consistently underfunded. My second question is, if you can write a really storming letter, is there any mileage in getting wider publicity for it? Or is that... do you want to see what response you get from them first?
We need to get the facts clarified a bit first, because I did speak to the deputy leader about this. whilst I was away on vacation again. And I said to him that as the chairman of the Parish Council, I would actually have to object to it because there were a number of things, i.e. the metering, was it, the way they work it out didn't make sense. And there's also a potential cost in there that it could end up costing us £6 per light more for the energy charge. Yes. So that is very worrying in my case. You know, when we took 108 lights at £6, that's an awful lot of money that we're going to find. He did come back to me and say, well, there were other parishes that took it on board. I said, well, my comment to that was, yeah, they probably only got 4 lights or 5 lights, you know, and they're a lot smaller than what we are. So I did, as I said, I did have a word with the deputy leader. I totally agree with it. I think the whole thing's been rushed through. It is a shambles, and I would truly endorse that Brian and David get together.
Are you seconding my proposal?
Yes. To get this sorted out, because otherwise we could end up with a mess on our hands. And when it comes to budgeting, how do you budget for something you don't know what you're budgeting for?
Well, yes, I mean,
there's a further issue that we need to consider as well with the street lighting, because we've got in developments where street lights have been removed and not replaced. We've got the issue of the LED lights that people are feeling that are not giving them coverage they need. There are dark areas in the village that are particularly dangerous. And so I think as part of this exercise, we ought to extend it for a review of the lighting in the village, because it's generally very...
Totally good.
I mean, I'm going to say also it's a general issue of maintenance, particularly the South Cambridgeshire lights, which weren't replaced under the Balfour Beatty contract. And I mean, there was one down Woodland Road I spotted number 11, which I reported, which hasn't even got the bracket on top that holds the light. It's just a concrete thing sticking up on the road.
Okay, right, so we'll agree to that. We'll get more information and yeah, that's fine. Before we move on to the next item, can I ask somebody to propose an extension of time?
9:45?
15.
15. So quarter, so we say quarter to.
Yeah.
You're happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Thank you.
Vote.
All those in favour?
Thank you.
Right. Yay.
Just in case.
Right.
Did we do the vote on the street lighting?
No, we'll just.
No, they're going to vote next, then I'm going to get...
Yeah. Objection. Right, to discuss the rubbish at the allotments. We didn't get the photos, did we?
No, some of it has been cleared out, but there's still all the other bits.
There's an issue down our allotments where there's potentially fly tipping arising. Now the issue that we have is we can get our staff to clear it up, but it's a case of if we get the staff to clear it up, then we're setting a precedent that every time somebody fly tips, we call on our staff and they have to clear it up again. So the reason this is on the agenda is, what is the feeling of the councillors? How would you like us to deal with this problem of the rubbish being dumped basically on this allotment? Ben?
Have we talked to allotment holders about the problem? I wonder whether
that's
they have any
isn't it?
good
Well,
ideas.
yeah, but it's a difficult one because I think the trouble is there's been an empty allotment and some stuff's appeared on it, and now other people are adding to it, but it's not necessarily allotment stuff. There's a suitcase and stuff like that. So unless someone sees someone do it, it's not like other allotment holders. Well, you can't prove it, but it's hard to...
What I'm suggesting is it's unlikely to be allotment.
Oh yeah,
exactly. They're not going to sort their own.
Yeah, it won't be. That's what my comment is, but it's proved but writing to them to say what.
I'm not sure I've even writing to them, but going over and chat with people and asking them. I mean, you still got to be looking at anyway.
But yeah, I think they would report
We're in dilemma. How do we deal with it? We get our staff to clear it up every time it happens, and which isn't really feasible.
I mean, if you think that the mess that's there now is attracting more mess, then it sounds like we ought to clear what's there. Can we do anything that prevents people doing anything at all?
I don't know how you can prevent it.
That's the dilemma, Beck. Brian.
So the refuse staff, the bin operators, are being trained to assess fly tipping as they go around on their duties. So, for example, they will actually look inside rubbish and see if there's any indication of the owner. If it's a significant problem, so that I think that's really the question, isn't it?
It is.
You know, if it's a repeating pattern, and people think that that's a nice place to just dump their rubbish, then I think our reaction ought to be different than if it's a one-off or happens a few times. Then there's no particular reason I think we shouldn't clear it up. But if it continues, then we might look at different reaction, including the possible monitoring of it.
So basically, we clear it up and then we'll monitor it, and then we'll just.
Yes, but we're also suggesting an option is, and we're talking about doing this elsewhere in the district, is putting up cameras of hot spots. So, is it possible, for example, if it carries on, that we just ask the district council if they will monitor it with their equipment for a while?
Yeah.
Rajni had his hand.
In fact, the point that was made, CCTV could be an option as well. If it's reoccurring all the time, at least CCTV would be a good deterrent.
Joe, did you say it was a vacant allotment?
I think so, yes.
Could we clear the rubbish away this time and find a tenant for it pronto? Because
Well,
then
it's not like saying find a tenant for it. We can only if people approach us asking for a lot.
Somebody
We don't have anyone on the waiting list.
Somebody was asking about a lot
Oh,
more.
then yes,
Well, there you go. Point them.
That's why I'm asking to contact the Parish Council, because it's not working through Facebook, but ask
Can we
them.
advertise it?
Well, there is, well, I suppose we can. I mean, the new allotment agreements have gone out now, October, so what we'll do, the end of October, when all payments should be made, we'll know, because some people give them up, we'll know how many vacant, and then we can put some.
But can't we find a tenant for this one quickly so that we can
Well, no,
coordinate clearing it with getting a new owner?
Well, no, because we don't have anyone on the waiting list. Well, like you said, that person, if they contact us, we can offer it to them.
Yeah, okay.
But
Right, so
then-
they agree, but Brian,
Sorry.
So on something that Joe just said, I think the Parish Council ought to use all available means of advertising this, including Facebook. So let's get a post out there and let's depersonalise it. I know in fact got an issue with me contacting you by Facebook, but we can have an anonymous account.
Yes, and I now know how to do that. Okay. Might be able to,
So that it takes the personalities out of it.
Yeah. Well, like I say, by the end of October, we'll know how many we have, and we might as well advertise all.
Well, let's do this. Can we do this one straight away?
Yes.
Okay. Could you just let me have the details, and I'll do something to advertise it.
I'll ask Claire to let me know.
That'd be great, thank you.
Right.
No, sorry, Tony.
And I was wondering, can't we put in something in Source and Say? Free delivery.
There won't be another one out till December. It's only
See if we're successful with Facebook first then.
We'll be involving younger people.
But it would be good to actually develop a waiting list for this, so that when...
Well, it's benefits to start. We did have a waiting list, and then also we had loads of vacant ones, and now we didn't have a waiting list, so it's,
Okay, right. So that's what we're moving forward. Right, emergency plan update.
I've done a first draft of it. I've got details of space capacities from the primary school, waiting for SPC, still waiting for the churches to come back. They haven't let me know what capacity. Interestingly, Icknield School, if there's ever a gas problem and we use their facilities, their gas is not mains gas, so they can carry on cooking up there. They have their own, they have gas cylinders for their gas at the school, apparently. So they'll still be able to feed, they'd still be able to feed people. So we're progressing quite well, but one of the things that other parish, I've got someone else's parish council emergency plan, and one of the things they have is a skills and expertise list of people who are in the village who will be able to help us if there was a major disaster or we needed help. So they have people listed such as people who are caterers who might be able to help, plumbers, heating engineers, that sort of thing, where they come along and help us in an emergency. We need to find out, I need a way of approaching the public in the village to get their names to come forward, get them to come forward and offer their skills. So is this something that goes source and seen or again Facebook?
Yes, absolutely. Or you could also ask people to nominate experts, because I want to say that Councillor Manners knows more than anybody else about drains.
Well, this is it, drains. I mean, they have people, they have a list of people who have tractors and things like that as well, 4x4s.
Well, that's you as well.
So,
we're ticking all
perhaps
boxes.
we're
Just putting your names out.
But is this something, you know, again, we do this from the Facebook account, put something on. I mean, is this something I speak to you about and put something in source and see and get people to come forward?
I think Facebook and source and seen between them have got very different demographics and cover quite a lot of the village.
Yeah, because if I can get people to come forward who are willing, I mean, the name list will only go out to a couple of people with all the phone numbers, so it's not going to be public. I've got direct line numbers for the doctor's surgery and for the key holders at the schools and things. I've got all their mobile phone numbers now, so we can contact them directly. So yeah, people need to be made aware it's not going to be a public thing, it is only going to be a few elite people who get the list. And there'll be a tree which we will all be listed on going down to contact each other to expand out. But at the moment, I've run to a halt. Joe's not going to be very happy.
I'm sorry, guess it's the star on top of the tree.
Oh, you are right. So I've run to a halt at the moment until I can get some experts or skills people to come forward.
Thank you very much for that, Jan. And thank you very much for all the work you put into it.
Yeah, that's right. I was walking around the village the other day.
Right, update from county councillors. Well, the only thing I've really got to say is, unfortunately, that there was a press release on the start of the Sawston Hub. Which was announced last Wednesday. So the beauty of it is it's now been agreed, everything's moving forward, and they now started building the process. So hopefully it'll all be done and dusted by spring next year.
Do you want me to write that down?
No.
Shall I just put spring? I'll just put spring.
Just say, look up Marvin.
I'll put spring.
Apart from that, there's nothing really else for me to report at the moment. So over to district.
So apologies for nothing in writing, but that gives you an indication of how much I've got to do over recent time, in fact, since I came back from holiday. So I haven't got anything in writing, but if you want to ask anything, please fire away, and I'll do something for next time.
Is it worth suggesting, as we've got a bit of meeting to go through, that if anyone's got any parish-related questions, they could ask them now, but if they've got questions that are just about district council business, they could do it after the meeting?
I've only got one question, that is what's happening with the licensing? Have you just gone out to consultation, regarding the new licensing acts that you're thinking of bringing in? With car, i.e. taxis, car hire?
It's not something I'm personally involved with, so if you want me to take that question and come back to you, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, it's just a progress report. Without the consultation, be really helpful. Because we've got a lot of taxi firms in the village.
Yes, so...
Right, so you're making proposals for within the licensing that will probably put a lot of taxi firms out of business. So, i.e. the cars will be restricted to being 6 years old, and they have to meet in with the new guidelines of the pollution and the diesel thing,
Yes.
and they'll be banned and one thing and another, which will put a lot of firms out of business because they won't be able to afford the new cars, which are back to
Yeah, I know this is a local issue, but it sounds like a national issue as well. I'm just very worried about the time. We've only got 7 minutes.
Could I just ask, is this a consultation? Because if that's the case, then any comments will be made in consultation.
As far as I was aware, it's a consultation exercise that's going on right now. But I don't know any more detail of it, so I'm quite happy to take it away and find out.
Yeah. So just a very quick one. Is it still policy of South Cambs to proceed to the SIL regime instead of S106?
It's a question that I raised when reading some planning documentation from the recent PPF.
Right.
So the answer to your question is I don't know yet, but I'll bring that answer back to you when I have it.
Okay. Right, we'll have, thank you very much. Right, correspondence, please?
None.
None. Right, council issues for the agenda for the next meeting, starting with you, Kieran.
Nothing thanks.
Jane.
Nothing, thanks.
Mike.
So I thought, you go any further with the markings?
Not yet.
There's bikes coming past, and that's one of the there from there to bikes.
Well, I've been in hospital, so I haven't had a chance to chase them up yet. So, the answer to your question is not yet. I haven't done it yet. But I am on it. I am chasing them when I can get the chance. And then, Archie?
The only thing I would raise in the next council meeting is sports aspect that we discussed at several full meetings.
Sport?
Yes.
Right.
It's not come back until the end of the, what is the progress on that one?
Right, okay, we'll have that discussion and so we can see where you want to go.
Yeah. What is that about? So is that sport and goal recreation?
Yeah, we've done it. There'll be a recreation.
What is
It's development. You're based on about the development of sports, aren't you? Yeah.
If you recall what we had, you proposed at the full-page meeting.
Right, okay.
Thereafter, we need to look at how to do it.
Okay. Right. Development, just development, question mark. Second. Right.
Yeah.
One thing that came up was the discussion that we had previously about the bus stop at the memorial. And previously it was, we were told that there wasn't enough space.
Yeah.
But then when we talked about the one on London Road, the shelter was able to fit in a similar width. So
strange though.
I have got to look into it. It's on my list. We do need to look at bus stops, bus shelters again.
Yeah.
Because I know that is one that people have asked about.
I mean, it's one of the most commonly used.
I know it is.
So
I need to meet the county and I need to.
Yeah.
It's on my radar.
Thank you.
Super quick, Councillor Drew asked about the skills audit, and I suddenly remembered in the middle of the night that somebody had started writing one, which was, of course, Councillor Martin, and I'd had some feedback on it and was going to look at it and revise it. So that is actually in preparation, and perhaps I could ask for Councillor Drew's input on it when I got it to a better stage.
Yes.
I got nothing. So moving on to pursuant of section 1.2. We all know, I'm not going to read it out, I think you all know what it all means.